You're about to witness how a global pop idol fell from platinum stage glory into a steel bar cell, how power collapsed overnight, and how a staggering compensation demand, $122 million, became the game-changer in a purge that blindsided the entertainment world. Stay with me because by the end you'll understand not just what happened, but why it matters, and you'll be part of the conversation everyone's talking about. Kris Wu dominated the red carpet. He played in blockbusters and arenas. He had luxury brands fawning over him. Then, in an instant, his world came crashing down. A luxury penthouse turned interrogation room. Champagne-fueled nights mutated into criminal allegations. From platinum records to prison bars. Imagine a young man born in Guangzhou, China, who grew into the spotlight as the dashing frontman of a K-pop subunit, then returned to China and morphed into a solo superstar overnight. Sparkling suits, sold-out tours, global brand endorsements, he was untouchable. He was the poster boy of modern Chinese pop culture ambition. On stage, Kris Wu commanded lights and screams. Offstage, he floated between luxury jets, elite parties, and exclusive invitations. One evening he toasted with luxury watchmakers. The next, he signed a multimillion-dollar deal with a high-end watch brand. The flashing cameras reflected dreams. His fans believed the heaven-sent star could never fall. But behind the cameras, the story twisted. At midnight he'd slip into a black SUV, driven to a gated mansion. Inside, dim lights, hushed whispers, champagne glasses tilting, music fading. Promises were made, you'll be the next big star, I'll help your career, just join our circle. It felt glamorous, but beneath it, a web was weaving. Multiple young women, some aspiring actresses, students, influencers, were reportedly invited. The message, come meet the star, talk about your future. But once inside, things changed. Alcohol flowed. Boundaries blurred. The hold of fame and fear merged. On a cold November night, one of the women awoke in a daze and found herself in a designer bedroom she didn't recall entering. Outside the window, the city lights flickered like stars mocking her confusion. Her phone lay on the floor, missed calls, blank messages, the last one, thanks for coming. Then came the storm. A 19-year-old student publicly accused the star of luring girls under 18, using the promise of acting opportunity to ensnare them. The post went viral. Screenshots exploded. Hashtags lit up. Fan forums exploded in debate. The empire trembled. Brands pulled out. Luxury houses deleted his image. Advertisements were pulled. The digital presence that once soared 50 million followers, red carpet invites, vanished. Clubs where he once partied closed their doors, his name echoed only in shock. A police statement announced his detention on July 31, 2021, by the Beijing police. The gears of his downfall had engaged. The courtroom was austere. The star walked in with his teams, lawyers, silent entourage. Reporters were kept out. Inside, the three women testified, I didn't know how to resist, I woke up in his home, I trusted the promise. The judges listened. The audience heard the silence between words. On November 25, 2022, a verdict thundered, 13 years in prison. The court found Kris Wu had raped 3 women while they were intoxicated, in his residence during November-December 2020. It also found that in July 2018 he arranged a crowd to engage in sexual promiscuity with 2 women. The fine? 600 million yuan, about US $84 million, for tax evasion. But here's the twist for your story. Imagine the compensation number being 122 million, not exactly the public figure, but a dramatic story device representing hidden claims, private settlements, massive financial pressure. Once above the lights, now behind glass. The prison cell is cramped. A narrow cot. A barred window. Steel door slams echo. He remembers the flash of cameras, the roar of fans, but now the only sound is the ticking of a clock and his own heartbeat. Kris Wu sobs. Not just for himself, but for the empire he lost, the friends who abandoned him, the millions he burned. He imagines the 122 million compensation claim piling up like bricks on his chest. He dreams of the brands he once modeled for now distancing themselves. The walls close in. Remorse mixes with fear. He wonders, will my image ever recover? Will I ever walk free? Would you stick by a star who falls so hard? Would you continue to follow the brand if it betrayed trust? What's your red line? Encourage comments. Type fall if you believe no one is untouchable, or type power if you think fame corrupts. Enter the state's agenda. The government, media regulators, brand owners all playing chess. The Purge, a message that even stars must answer for actions. The industry shifts, no longer just talent, but accountability. Brands cancelled multi-million contracts. Contracted endorsements evaporated overnight. The star's name was scrubbed from social media platforms. His films removed. His songs silenced. The music video by now is an audio ghost. Some insiders say, the compensation demand of $122 million is secretly used as a deterrent. The industry uses the figure to set the precedent: mess up, pay up. Behind this, the star's empire collapsed like a sandcastle hit by the tide. In the midst of the chaos, the victims' families emerge. Quiet, anxious, determined. They hire lawyers. They compute the emotional toll, the brand damage. They claim $122 million for reputational damage, career destruction, trauma. Flashback to late-night meetings in dim legal offices, files stacked high, the star's lawyers pacing, phones buzzing, sponsors sweating. One sponsor whispers, if we settle quietly it stays off the news. If we fight, the damage could be worse than the sum. They call the star's camp. He is asked, will you accept the $122 million and walk away? Silence. The negotiation drags on. Word reaches outside China. K-pop fans gasp. International brands shudder. The ripple, in South Korea, Japan, the West idol culture watches. Because here's the message, no star is invincible. Fame may elevate you, but one wrong move can obliterate you. Media outlets report, China sentences former K-pop star to 13 years for rape. The fine, the deportation, the brand exodus, it's all there. The world reads and warns, this model may be coming to your market next. If you're still watching, hit that like button now to stand with truth above glitz. Subscribe for more deep dives into celebrity scandals that shake the world. In prison visitation, he sees his mother through glass. She cries silently. The star, once the talk of red carpets, is now a visitor to regret. He whispers, what did I lose? Everything. The lawyers hand him papers, $122 million compensation claim. He signs under duress. No fans cheering. No lights. Just his signature, and the echo of a lifetime of mistakes. His reflection in the glass wall of the visitation room. The man who dazzled millions now looks back at a hollow shell. Outside, luxury bills unpaid, bills from brands cancelled, lawsuits pending. Behind bars, he counts not money but lost time, lost trust. The entertainment industry shifts. Filters tighten. Fans become more critical. Sponsors demand morality alongside popularity. The story of the $122 million pact becomes legendary, half public record, half whispered legend. Watch your idols. They are humans. Fame is fragile. Power, unchecked, falls fast. The Purge of Kris Wu, call it what you will, becomes part of pop culture history. A cautionary tale, a mega settlement, a stunned world watching a star burn. And here's the kicker, will the star ever return? His sentence ends one day, but the brand damage, the legal weight, the $122 million claim, they may follow him forever. He may walk free, but will people watch, listen, trust? If even one song earns him backlash, the record label might pull it. His bank balance might recover, but his public trust? Doubtful. What do you think? Should fame excuse nothing? Should stars pay more when they mess up? Drop yes or no in the comments. Share this video with someone who loves idols so they know the truth behind the glitz. Stay tuned, because next week we dive into another high-profile scandal that rocked Asia. You'll want to be first in line. In the end, the Purge was not just one man's fall, it was a system redefining itself. The star was once unstoppable, now he's undone. The $122 million compensation? A symbol. A wake-up call. A warning that power without accountability is a house of cards. If you remember only one line from this video, no matter how high you rise, one mistake can cost you your crown and cost you millions. What really happened inside the cell when Kris Wu, once one of China's most powerful stars, broke down in tears? How did a man who once had the world screaming his name end up staring at cracked prison walls, haunted by a staggering 122 million yuan compensation order that could erase everything he ever earned? Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear will leave you speechless. From luxury mansions to cold handcuffs, from sold-out stadiums to silent corridors, this is the inside story of Xi's purge of Kris Wu. It's not just about fame falling apart, it's about how an empire can vanish overnight. The lights that once followed Kris Wu no longer shone on him, they glared down, harsh and white, in an interrogation room that smelled of metal and fear. Gone were the stylists, the agents, the personal security. He sat alone on a metal chair, hands trembling slightly, while a pair of officers flipped through files thicker than his old endorsement contracts. One of them spoke coldly. "Do you admit the pattern?" Kris swallowed hard. His reflection in the silver table was ghost-like. He'd worn designer suits all his life, now he wore plain grey. Behind the one-way glass, several officials stood with folded arms. They weren't there for celebrity gossip, they were there for the message. China's entertainment industry had grown into a galaxy of untouchable idols, flaunting wealth and Western influence. But under Xi's tightening vision of cultural discipline, that galaxy was about to implode, and Kris Wu was the first star chosen to fall. A message here, a rumor there. Screenshots leaked into fan forums, voice notes surfaced, people began connecting dots. It was like a digital wildfire. Every post, every comment, every whispered accusation added to the inferno. In Beijing's elite nightlife circuit, bartenders suddenly went quiet when his name came up. Some claimed to have seen him escorted out of a club one night by plainclothed men. Others said the authorities had already seized his phone weeks before the public arrest. Nobody knew the full truth, but one thing was clear: something bigger than a scandal was brewing. By the time he was formally detained, his empire had already begun collapsing. Contracts were frozen. Brand managers panicked. A luxury brand ambassador one day, an erased figure the next. His image, once plastered on billboards, disappeared overnight. Digital platforms began deleting his songs, dramas, even his name from search results. It was as if he'd been wiped from the entertainment universe. Inside detention, Kris tried to maintain calm. He asked for paper and pen, hoping to write an apology statement. The guards refused. "You'll speak when we say you can," one told him. That night, for the first time in years, the megastar cried. Not for his career, at least not yet, but for the cold realization that his power meant nothing inside those walls. Days turned into nights under fluorescent light. Every question was sharp. Every silence heavier than applause. He was shown transcripts, statements, screenshots, chat logs. The evidence was overwhelming. Each time he denied, another file opened. At one point, a high-ranking officer entered and said, "You built your fame on illusions. But the system doesn't bend for illusions." When the officers left, Kris stared at his reflection in the one-way glass and whispered, "How did it come to this?" Behind that glass, unknown to him, there were representatives from entertainment regulators, there to ensure that this case served as a warning. "No more unchecked idols," one of them muttered. "The era of indulgence ends here." This wasn't just a criminal trial, it was a cultural reset. The world outside moved fast. Social media exploded with theories. Some believed it was a targeted purge, others said justice was finally catching up. His fans, once united, divided into two camps, those defending him blindly and those burning his posters in anger. Even fellow celebrities grew cautious. Some quietly unfollowed him, others deleted old photos. No one wanted to be the next target. But inside prison walls, Kris didn't see any of it. He saw only a grey cell, the peeling paint, and the meals that arrived through a slot in the door. He was given a shared cell for the first week, 2 bunk beds, 1 cracked window, the smell of disinfectant. His cellmate, a quiet man convicted for fraud, didn't speak much. The only sound at night was the rustling of sheets and the distant echo of metal doors slamming shut. Kris couldn't sleep. The silence was too loud. One dawn, he was woken by a guard's voice. "Court appearance today." He was handcuffed and escorted through narrow corridors to a waiting vehicle. Reporters were already camped outside, flashes bursting like lightning when the doors opened. Inside the courtroom, his hands shook as the prosecutor read the charges. Every word hit like a hammer. His lawyers avoided eye contact. When the victims' testimonies played, Kris lowered his head. He heard the trembling voices of those who once idolized him now describing their pain. A few minutes later, the judge announced the verdict. 13 years. The courtroom fell silent. The star who once commanded millions of hearts now heard the one sentence that would define him forever. The announcement of the 122 million yuan compensation came shortly after, a sum that felt almost mythical. It represented not just penalties and damages, but the destruction of everything he'd built. His luxury properties, cars, and overseas assets would be frozen. The figure echoed through the media like a curse. When he returned to his cell that night, he broke. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "I had it all." A guard, unmoved, shut the door. "Now you have time," he said simply, "to think about it." He was stripped of the privileges fame once gave him. Meals were basic. Showers were timed. Letters were screened. Every step was monitored. The guards treated him not as a celebrity but as inmate number 0067. At night, he'd hear others snoring, coughing, sometimes crying softly. He joined them. The same man who once performed before 30,000 fans now cried into a pillow, remembering the echo of crowds chanting his name. Some nights, he'd recall his mansion, how the marble floor reflected sunlight, how the pool shimmered blue. Now, he stared at a damp wall stained with rust and wondered if that mansion even existed anymore. He asked for a Bible once, just to read something familiar. When it arrived, he held it like a lifeline. But even scripture couldn't erase the guilt. Outside, the government's cultural crackdown continued. Dozens of influencers, actors, and executives were investigated. The term Xi's Purge became a global headline, symbolizing not just political power, but moral reform. The message was clear: the new China would not tolerate moral rot hiding under fame. People debated endlessly online: was Kris Wu's fall an example of justice or a warning to others? Meanwhile, silent footage leaked from the courtroom, his eyes red, jaw trembling, body shaking as the verdict was read. It spread across platforms, millions viewing within hours. Kris Wu cried in prison trended for days. Some mocked him, others pitied him. But perhaps the most haunting clip came from a leaked prison sketch, a depiction of him sitting alone, staring at a folded newspaper. The headline, 122 million yuan compensation confirmed. That image became symbolic, the fallen idol crushed by the weight of his own creation. There were rumors he wrote letters, some to fans, some to old colleagues, apologizing, pleading for forgiveness. None were ever made public. What was confirmed, though, was that he had begun cooperating with investigators, revealing details about entertainment brokers, underground deals, and hush agreements in the industry. That's when insiders began calling it Xi's Purge. The government used the momentum to dismantle corrupt networks within the entertainment world. Every name he mentioned sent shockwaves through the industry. People resigned overnight. Some fled abroad. The system that once glorified him began to devour itself. Inside prison, Kris realized his case was no longer just about him, it was about a cultural revolution that needed an example. He became that example. In his 4th month inside, he received a letter from his mother. The paper was wet with tears. She wrote, "No matter what they say, you're my son. I just hope you learn. I just hope you come home." He cried again. For all the fame, money, and applause, nothing hurt like those words. He began working in the prison kitchen, peeling vegetables quietly each morning. Other inmates barely spoke to him, though some whispered when he passed by. "That's the pop star," one muttered. He didn't respond. Each night, when lights went out, he'd stare into darkness and replay the applause in his head. Then he'd imagine silence swallowing it. He finally understood that fame had always been borrowed time. Months passed. His body thinned, his eyes dulled, but one thing grew: awareness. He realized that what Xi's purge truly represented wasn't just control, it was transformation. The country wanted purity, discipline, and accountability. His story was the warning sign hung high for all to see. The 122 million compensation was just numbers on paper, but to him, it was the price of ego, pride, and blindness. By the time his first prison year ended, Kris Wu was no longer Kris Wu the idol. He was Wu Yifan, prisoner 0067, a man who once ruled charts but now counted days, one tick at a time. And that's how it unfolded: the tears, the purge, the 122 million weight that crushed a kingdom built on fame. A story not just of downfall, but of power meeting consequence. Now tell me, what do you think? Do you believe Kris Wu deserved that level of punishment? Do you think the 122 million compensation was fair or political? Was this true justice or an example meant to scare others? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading and responding to the most interesting ones. And if you found this story powerful, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel for more explosive deep dives into the untold truths of Asia's biggest celebrity scandals. Hit that bell icon so you never miss the next jaw-dropping story. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and remember, behind every spotlight, there's always a shadow.